First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Welcome back. We are here live from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. If it's your first time watching, thanks for doing so. If you've watched a lot of times, thanks also for doing so. Don't forget to download the Fox 12 Oregon app. That is a great way to watch this show live and after the fact and everything else that we do here at Fox 12 Oregon. Okay, now that you know that, we're going to talk about getting outdoors. It is so nice outside. Obviously, a lot of people are heading outdoors for different activities, but one thing that is also good when it comes to this kind of weather and getting out there is to remember about the wildlife. Watch for wildlife. And there are a number of different avenues and projects that are going on to help protect wildlife. We want to talk about some of those right now. Joining us, we have Tim Greseth, the Executive Director of the Oregon Wildlife Fund. And Tim, always great to have you here on the show just to talk about all the work that you do. But to that extent, to give everybody that overview, would you mind letting people know what the Oregon Wildlife Fund is?
Yeah, absolutely. The Oregon Wildlife Foundation is
Foundation.
Yeah, that's okay. Organization was founded in 1981, and our role is to help connect people, private individuals, and private giving with projects that are of a public benefit. In this case, fish and wildlife conservation in the state of Oregon. And so we do that in a variety of ways. We'll raise money capital campaign style for bigger projects. We'll also be the fiscal sponsor or fiscal agent for coalitions that are trying to aggregate and raise money for important work. We're also the fiscal sponsor for individual corporations, nonprofit corporations that don't yet have their tax exempt status. So in essence, we are their tax exempt organization, and they can fundraise under our auspices. We have a number of friends of groups that benefit from that relationship. And then we are doing some land stewardship work as well around the state, holding easements, acquiring important habitat. And then finally, we do make grant awards. We give out about roughly $230,000 a year in grants around the state.
Wow, that is a lot that is being managed right there, and a lot of partnerships and cooperation. And it does seem like one thing that I got from that is it's working with a lot of other organizations and maybe people private or commercial and across the board. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. I mean, we want to help, all people in Oregon that have an interest in the future of our fish and wildlife to be able to contribute in whatever way that they would like to be able to do that, whether it's with a, contribution, monetary contribution, or where they want to give up their time. So we want to be a connector for folks that want to help.
And I want to talk about some of those specific projects to some of the different ones that you have going on to help out wildlife. But when we say watch for wildlife, what does that really mean for you when we're talking about that?
Yeah. Well, I guess first and foremost, I would say you've probably seen the Watch for Wildlife license plates on vehicles around the state. That's the mule deer plate, and the dollars that the purchase and the renewal of that plate generate go into a special fund called the Watch for Wildlife Fund that we hold here at Oregon Wildlife Foundation, and we utilize those dollars for the purposes of helping wildlife move. All people and wildlife need to move to live. But wildlife in particular are fairly constrained by roads and fences and developments and all kinds of things that people create that actually produce little islands of habitat that make it difficult for wildlife to get what they need. So watch for wildlife means a lot of things to me. I want people to look out for wildlife from a safety perspective, wildlife on our roads, but also to be aware. I think understanding that we share this planet with species really that depend on us is an important realization, I think, and the only way we make that is by paying attention.
And that's certainly true. I mean, there's so many different aspects of that, but when you are out there, it's frequent to encounter, but yeah, watching out for them. When we talk about some of those different, I guess, wildlife transportation concerns, as far as getting across, freeways, roads, different things like that. You've got a couple of big projects. I'm sure there's a lot of them, but a couple of ones I wanted to ask about. One of them being an I-84 project. Would you mind telling people about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just kicking off an effort to raise the money to study a section of I-84 between Pendleton and LeGrand. It's I-84 is basically essentially almost a permanent barrier to wildlife movement. In other words, wildlife on one side have a really difficult time without venturing onto the road. Well, without venturing onto the road, it's difficult to get on the other side of the road for access to habitat. So we want to look at I-84 for opportunities to do two things. One is potentially build new wildlife specific crossing facilities, so undercrossings and overcrossings, but also to look at the existing bridges and culverts that are out there in these sections of I-84 to see if those can be retrofitted or made appropriate for wildlife use. And the study that we're raising the money to do would allow us to look at all of those opportunities and then prioritize amongst those what are the things that are what are those places that are really critical we pay attention to and try to get something done, either again retrofitting a culvert or retrofitting an existing bridge or building an undercrossing or an overcrossing for wildlife. So that's a project we're just starting again to raise the funds for. We've done a number of these phase one studies, so looking at these highway sections that are where there's a lot of wildlife vehicle collisions happening, and then trying to figure out where's the place that we think wildlife want to cross, and then what's that crossing mechanism? How are we getting them across that road safely? That's good for people too, by the way, because on average, 1 to 2 people, motorists in Oregon each year die as a result of either a collision with a large-bodied animal or avoidance of a collision. And so it's a safety issue for people, and it's also, of course, a big problem for wildlife.
Yeah, this seems like that would be a win-win on across the board right there for something
Absolutely.
like that. Are there bridges like that? I'm talking about the bridge aspect, or even the culvert or under the road aspect. Are there things like that in this state currently, or in other states that you can look to as reference?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we're working with the Oregon Department of Transportation on a retrofit project on I-5, actually at the Mount Ashland exit off of I-5, and that happens to be a place where the I-5 passes over, and it creates basically a natural underpass, but it's not really wasn't created for wildlife. So what we're doing is creating a better bench underneath that. It follows a local road that's not used a lot, but creating a better bench for wildlife to use, some screening to allow wildlife to be able to do that without lights and the noise of vehicles to distract them or to scare them away. And those kinds of really simple stuff, but those kind of retrofits are out there that can make these seemingly natural places for wildlife to use and move easier for them to utilize, and that's again a win-win. It's not those aren't expensive projects necessarily, and there are definitely places around the state where that opportunity exists.
I love that. Just rethinking, what's already there, something that
Yeah.
perhaps somebody passes by every day without even thinking about the fact that this could be utilized for those other purposes,
Yeah.
and to help out everybody. So that's so there's the I-84 project. Well, there's that one down there on I-5 as well, and then one that's close to the Portland area. I know is the Frog Crossing. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned earlier that Oregon Wildlife Foundation is a fiscal sponsor. We happen to be the fiscal sponsor for the group Linnton Frogs that does the Harborton Frog Shuttle. And I think maybe a lot of your viewers have heard about the shuttle. It's a great volunteer-led project that's been going on for about almost a decade now, where people were seeing northern red-legged frogs getting smashed on the road on Highway 30, busy Highway 30, and they were coming out of Forest Park and moving across Highway 30 to try to get to the wetland where they need to lay their eggs to create the next generation of frogs. It's like many things, wildlife need water, they need places to breed, so they can create the next generation, fulfill their life purpose. And in this case, these frogs were moving down, getting run over on Highway 30. So volunteers mobilized, and they created this Harborton Frog Shuttle, where they gather the frogs in a bucket, and they literally transport them safely across the highway and release them near Harborton Wetland in around Linnton in Northwest Portland. And so the Harborton Frog Crossing Project is really our attempt to find a way to make this not so dependent on people. And could we actually create a modified box culvert where frogs could potentially use that to get safely underneath Highway 30, so it wouldn't necessitate people picking up the frogs in buckets and moving them in this way across. That's really not a sustainable solution, right, to habitat connectivity for frogs. And so we're trying to create this connection by creating a safe place for the frogs to cross underneath Highway 30. We have a basic conceptual design. That project is one where we're now heading into the next phase, which is phase 2 of full design and engineering. Like, we've got a concept of a box culvert, but what does it mean to actually construct that and put it across 4 lanes of Highway 30 plus a center lane as well, so 5 lanes of traffic? How is that done? How do we ensure that the frogs will use it? That's all part of the next phase, the design and engineering of the actual structure. So yeah, that's a nice project that it's going to take some help from the general public to fund it, because these frogs are not they're not endangered. They're a threatened species in Oregon, but they're not an endangered species. And they're also, by the very nature of their smallness, they're no threat to cars or motorists. Right? They get run over all the time. Unfortunately, people wouldn't even know that they maybe hit a frog. So the normal sorts of funding that might be available, because of the risks associated for motorists, or because the species is threatened, aren't there. And so we have to find the funds from other places. And so it just makes the job of phase 2 a lot harder. Not to mention the raising the money for the construction. But we're hopeful and I guess confident that we can get this done.
Well, yeah, I would love to learn more about that, and just finding out about things like this, projects that help out the wildlife. I mean, we're here in the Northwest, and it doesn't really matter where you are, but here in the Northwest especially, we love the outdoors, wildlife, all of that. It's kind of part of the existence here. So important to take care of it. Now, you did mention the funding side, as I had at the very beginning there, but when it does come to the funding of the Oregon Wildlife Foundation, what are some ways that people can find out more about how they can help you out?
Oh, well, absolutely. First of all, visit our website, www.myowf.org. We actually have a full page dedicated to these wildlife crossing efforts that we're involved in. It's called the Wildlife Moves page. If you look in the pull-down menu, you'll be able to find that. But yeah, we of course live on donations from the public. That helps cover the costs of the organization and what we do. But we also want people to help and make gifts to projects like the Harborton Frog Crossing Project, the I-84 project. Those are things you can donate to as well. If you don't want to donate to Oregon Wildlife Foundation, you can certainly make a donation to any of these projects, and we would be grateful for the support.
Well, Tim, thank you very much for having time to talk to us about this too, and just go through some of the work that you do, and again, getting the word out there about these projects. And watch for wildlife, at the end of the day, watch for wildlife in all those different aspects. And thanks for being here with us today.
Greg, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
For everybody watching, again, this is Fox 12 Now. We're going to take a break. We've got more coming up here throughout the afternoon, but I appreciate you joining us. And also, don't forget to download the Fox 12 Oregon app, and you can send me an email, fox12now@kptv.com, if you have an idea for a segment or maybe something you want to find out more about. We can do these longer interviews and conversations like we just had with Tim, but that's it for right now. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.